All of us would be familiar with the fact that before these texts got recorded in the form of sheets, these tales or the stories were made to reach people, or rather they were presented in front of people in the form of bards, which is the oral recitation of epics, the tales and stories of our kings and princes and all of their good deeds covered in them, or the tragedies that covered throughout the ages. And that is when it got recorded in the form of sheets. When we progressed a little, when this method of recording text in the form of sheets on the leaves through the inks and everything, that is when we got to record it, and that is how we are now able to read them or to learn from them. And in order to understand the literature or literary works of any part of the world, be it Japanese, Indian, Sri Lankan or Chinese, we first need to delve into the history of this country, into the socio-political conditions, into the economical conditions of this country, and the geographically placement of this country into the world. And the most important part about understanding a literary work is the philosophy behind it and its criticism. And in order to understand any literary work ever written, be it popular literature, be it classicals, be it epics, any genre, you first need to understand the philosophy behind it, the criticism with which you should read it in order to understand. I mean, you have to technically read between the lines to actually understand a literary text before you judge any work, any form of work. And that applies everywhere. So literature is not merely about stories or poems or any tales of that sort, but it transcends this stereotyping nature of the world where people just categorize it into a low form of art when they read popular works, to be specific. But literature, if it was not for literature, we would have not a single drop of hint, or we would not have a single idea about how this universe even works. So that is, the responsibility that literature took on its shoulders, and that is the reason why we are reading about it and we are getting to know so much more about this world, who we are, what we are, and the world that we live in, the universe that we live in, and the facts that we are yet to discover. All of this because of literature. Hello everyone, Namaste, a very warm welcome to my channel. This is Muskan, and I hope from the bottom of my heart that you all are doing great. So today's video is going to be about Indian book recommendations. The works of Indian literature, and some of these works are of the initial days. Some of the initial works in the history of Indian writing in English. And that began around 1920s or 30s, and I have some of the books of those times and I have read it, and you should pick it up too if you want to understand about Indian literature. There's a lot to it. There's a lot more work to it. There's a work that recently got awarded with Booker Prize, and I have read it as well and I have reviewed it, which is the Ret Samadhi by Gitanjali Shri, and you should definitely read this book because I cannot tire myself enough from talking about this book in general. I can go on and on about it, about the multitude of themes that this book contains. So let's just get into the video, into the book recommendations of this video. I guess I have 4 to 5 books that I want to talk about, that I want to share with you all. So just get along. The first book for today's recommendation is A Tiger for Malgudi by R.K. Narayan. Now, this book is a story about a tiger named Raja, and it is written in the form of a parable where the tiger has been given a voice, and the tiger Raja is the narrator and the protagonist of the story. And it is through the tiger's narration that we get to read about, or we get to know about the life of this tiger from his initial cubhood days to his old age. And while reading this, you will find so many events when there's satire upon the humans, upon the human faction of the society. There's irony, and you will find it so funny when you read it, that how we humans are so unthinkable. I cannot even imagine it. So there have been incidents where people started to hurt him by pelting stones at this tiger, and with the belief sitting in their head that the animal is only here to hurt them, which is so wrong. I mean, unless and until you hurt the animal, it is going to do nothing to you. It will just simply sit there and do nothing if you just be in your boundary. There's a distinction between our life and theirs, and we need to respect that. That is what happens. And we see that he has been taken up by a zoo, not a zoo but a circus, and there they treat him very badly. Initially he was made to undergo a lot of training in order to show a lot of acts and actions in the circus, but later on they treat him so badly that he was forced, although he did not intended to do that, but he was forced to attack his master. And later on we see that the tiger has found a guru, and when he finds this guru, it is then that his journey to attain enlightenment, to attain spiritual awakening begins. Because in the presence of this guru, the tiger learns to control his wilder instincts, and by that it means that he will not hunt just for the sake of hunting, but he'll only hunt when he's super duper hungry. And that is what the presence of this guru teaches the tiger, that for the sustenance of the tiger's life, it is important that he hunts, but it is unnecessary if he starts hunting mindlessly. So it is the journey of this tiger to attaining spiritual awakening in the presence of this guru, and it is so beautiful to read. I understand that it might sound a little bit cliche. I felt the same when I started reading this book, but it is nothing like that. I mean, you will find a lot of satires, lot of ironies, and it absolutely has some comical or humorous points or events, and you will really love to read this book by R.K. Narayan. And fun fact, I am here to state that R.K. Narayan was one of the 3 pioneers of the Indian writing in English, and in the 1930s, and the group consisted of Mulk Raj Anand, Raja Rao, and R.K. Narayan himself. So these were the 3 pioneers of our Indian writing in English in the 1930s, and we are so grateful that they did so. We are so grateful that they wrote all these stories that we can read and we can progress. All right, it's all a part of growth. So this is the book, and I think you should read it. The second book is Train to Pakistan by Kushwant Singh, and the theme central to this book is India-Pakistan partition. And mind you me when I say this is that I have read other partition novels as well, but you simply cannot not think about this book when you think about reading literary works about partition. You simply cannot ignore this book, and the essence with which this book captures the emotions and the realities of those times is simply unmatched. Right from the very beginning, I mean the onset of the bitterness in between the two nations and between the two factions that the society was divided in during those times, and the atrocities of people in power and the humanity that chose to exist during those horrendous times is what this book captures. And you should definitely pick this book up, because I mean it just makes you see the ground realities, like you're just sitting there and you're witnessing everything. I mean, that is the beauty of every work of literature, but I am truly amazed with this work. Specifically, I have read other partition novels, and I can say this, that you should pick this book up if you want to read anything about, I mean not anything, but if you want to read about partition as such, and you cannot ignore this book. Similar to the town of Malgudi in R.K. Narayan's work, this book is set in the fictional town of Mano Majra, which is a microcosm for all the communal riots and all the political tensions going on during in the country, in and around the country during the time of partition. And I cannot tire myself from recommending this book to you, but please do read this and tell me how you like it. Third book that I want to talk about today is The Binding Vine by Shashi Deshpande. As informed on the cover, this writer has won the Sahitya Academy Award for this work, which is the highest form of literary award that a writer could receive in India, and I am truly amazed and inspired by this work. The story is about the protagonist. It's about a lot of other women and about a lot of issues that goes on in our society. But the protagonist of the story is a woman named Urmila, who is grieving over the death of her daughter Anusha, and we get to read about her journey from being in this over-engulfing grief and to coming out of it and inspiring other women as well, helping them as well. So even though this is the main plot, Urmila grieving over her daughter Anusha is the main plot, but the subplots are even more significant. It deals with 2 rape cases, amongst which one is marital rape, and it was so difficult to read these things. I can only imagine how difficult it would have been to write it, and how difficult it is actually to live in this society where such crimes are going on. You can never feel safe to walk alone. Even if you are alone and even if you are with someone, how do you know that you can trust this person? How do you know that you are safe around these people? How do you know that? And that is what happens in this book, because the family members are the people who are to be blamed for these acts. And it was truly inspirational to read how Urmila helps these women. The main point that has been highlighted in this book is the importance of speaking out, which no one does. And it is through this taking a stand and speaking out to set whatever is wrong, to set all of these things right, is what has been highlighted in this book, which we usually ignore. And the character Urmila gives you that power and gives you that ignites within you that energy, so that you can talk about it, so that you can take a stand, and so that you don't have to keep burying yourself within grounds that no, I'll not speak about it. What will the world think? This is the world that's hurting you. This is the world that has been forcing stereotypes or false meanings upon you. So just take a stand for yourself, and it is their journey. It is how they come out of it. So this is a very beautiful book, and I have talked about this book in detail. It's the second video on my channel is about this book, and you should go and check it out. Maybe I'll add the link in the description below. The next and the fourth book that I'm going to talk about, and I feel so happy that I'm getting to talk about this book, that I'm getting to share this book with you, is a hardcover, and it is one of the most beautiful covers on my bookshelf, which is The Forest of Enchantments by Chitra, Banerjee, Divakaruni. Now this book is a story, it's not a story, but it is about Ramayana, and the only difference here is that this Ramayana, this retelling of Ramayana, is from Mata Sita's perspective, and it is so beautiful to read. It is so beautiful to know what must have, we could only imagine, right? So what must have gone in Mata Sita's mind, what she must have felt about the events that is happening around, because in Ramayana, or whenever we even see it on television, in the serials or in the other books about Ramayana, we only get to know about Prabhu Ram, about Sri Ram. I want to read a quote to you from this book, which you should listen, and it is: "What occurred when I was alone in the darkness under the sorrow tree, you don't know. You don't know my despair. You don't even know my exhilaration, how it felt, first in the forest and then in Ayodhya, when I was the most beloved woman in creation." We have absolutely no clue what she would have felt. And that is what we get to read in this book. But fun fact, do you know that Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni is not the first woman to write about Ramayana, or to give a feminist viewpoint about Ramayana, or a retelling of Ramayana from a feminist perspective? The first, and you will be truly amazed to read this, because the first woman to write a retelling of Ramayana is Chandrabati, the first ever woman to rewrite Ramayana. And you know when it was written? It was written in the 16th century, some 500 years from now. And just imagine the thought of Chandrabati to even think of writing, during the times when women were allowed nothing. And it is so inspirational to read about this information that I didn't know of, that Chandrabati is the first woman to write about the retelling of Ramayana, and truly inspirational is her work, because Chandrabati's Ramayana is an imaginative and unique adaptation of Ramayana from Sita's perspective. When women write, their style and focus is different from a man's, and also how personal relationships are more important for women as compared to war, politics that goes on in the entire world. The last book in today's video, or rather the last book that I am going to recommend in today's video, is about a writer who you cannot imagine Indian literature without in the contemporary times, and she is so popular that her work has been adapted into a movie, and you cannot miss out on her work. Okay, so the book is The Namesake by Jhumpa Lahiri. Now this book, or the story, is about a character named Gogol, who is the protagonist of the story, and it is the story about his relationship with his name, about the cultural differences, about his relationship with his parents. But it is not just about him, even though it states in many of the critical works that it is about Gogol and his relationship with his name. The title of the book clearly says that, The Namesake, but it is more about, majority of the works of Jhumpa Lahiri deals with the nuances involved about being caught up within the two conflicting culture and socio-religious differences, and the ideological difference in the ideological beliefs, and how difficult it is to survive in a foreign land. And the story revolves around three places: Kolkata, Boston and New York. And you get to read about Ashima Ganguly, her struggle to find an identity in a place in a foreign land where she has to start from scratch with her husband, and she has to start from scratch. She is completely alone while she is giving birth to her son, and it is so beautiful to read the story of their survival, the story of finding identities and getting to know themselves and valuing our culture even more while we live in a foreign land. And it is so significant that we as Indians, we are not as proud as we should be of our own culture, and that is what this book taught me. This book was really inspiring. It was a page turner, obviously, but it was also mind-boggling for me as well, because I was made to realize that I am not as proud as I should be of my culture, and reading this book made me feel so. So you should definitely pick this book up. And yeah, I have talked about this book in detail as well. You should go check it out. It's up on my channel, and you should go watch the video. And if I inspire to read this book, do pick it up and do let me know how you like it. And I am sure you are going to like it, because obviously it's Jhumpa Lahiri here. Please. So these are the 5 books from today's video, and if you liked watching this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you did not, give it a thumbs down. No worries. Just stay happy, stay blessed, and keep reading until we meet next time. Ciao.